Come on in, have a seat or stand up, and welcome to the latest edition of the Brooklyn Rails Wednesday afternoon lunchtime poetry series. Today's reading is curated by Ted Rees, and the reading is titled Snacks, Water, Cigarettes, Praise, Validation, Exaltation. Ted, I'm going to introduce in just a moment. He's invited Emily Martin, Layer Meat, and Ryan Skrabalak to join him in reading and singing today. We had a really terrific pre-reading check-in. It was the best of the year so far, but you're not allowed to know anything about it. This is, by the way, the 125th of these poetry readings somehow. And this is also the 767th episode, if these are episodes, of the New Social Environment, sponsored by Anti-Boeing. And my name's Anselm Berrigan, and I'm the poetry editor of the Rail. Poetry editor of the poetry section of the Rail. That's a little redundant, sorry. If you haven't been to one of these readings before, please take a look at the chat from time to time. There'll be various links posted to the endeavors and publications of our readers today, as well as some information on the Rail, and feel free to chime in if you hear anything you like especially. And I will now introduce Ted. Ted Rees is a poet, essayist, and editor who lives and works in Philadelphia. His most recent books include Dog Day Economy, published last year by Roof Books, and Thanksgiving, a Poem, which was a Lambda Literary Award finalist, published by Goliath Books in 2020. Recent essays have been published in Small Press Traffic's The Back Room and the Poetry Project newsletter. He's editor-at-large for The Elephants, as well as founder and co-editor of Asterian Projects with Levi Bentley. Since summer of 2020, has been running Overflowing Poetry Workshops, an extra institutional online workshop space. And there can find out more about what Ted's up to at tedreeswords.com. We also published some of his terrific poems in a recent issue of the Rail. So maybe we'll have a link up to that too in just in a few minutes. Please welcome Ted Rees to the Brooklyn Rail Reading Series.
Yay. Thanks so much, Anselm. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here today and to be given the opportunity to kind of share some of my favorite poets and artists with all of you. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. So yeah, I'll read a couple of poems and then I'll introduce people as we decided on the order beforehand. And I guess yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? I don't know. Do I need to say anything else? I think I'm good. Yeah, so I'm gonna read. I thought that it was appropriate that I read some stuff from that the Rail just published online and in the print issue, or the last print issue. But I think I'm gonna begin with something new-ish. I'm kind of working on a bunch of projects right now, but the one that's sort of I think more ready and kind of is just ready as I keep working on it is I'm listening to every recording that that the Art Ensemble of Chicago ever made and writing through it, which is an idea that I got from Coolidge, who wrote that book that's all basically written while listening to well, there's the Rova improvisations, but then there's also the book that he wrote while listening to all of Cecil Taylor's output. So I kind of I've never engaged in like a listening process poem, or like longer iterative project like that. And I figured this is a way for me to kind of further access an oeuvre that I only know like kind of the big hits from. I only know a couple, or before I started the project, I only knew a couple Art Ensemble of Chicago records, and now I'm kind of getting deep into it. So I'll read 2 poems from that, and then I'll read some other stuff. So thanks again for having me, Anselm and Carolyn and the Rail, and thanks to Rail for hosting all of this. So yeah, I've kind of been debating as to whether I should tell you which records these are referencing, but I'm just not going to. I think that some of them you can probably guess. The second one you might be able to guess pretty easily, but the first one I'm just not going to say. So this is that. So forded then, what can be a stew? With contrast leaking in disquisite lengths along brassy yellow intervals, kernels swim, wisely paging 1 digit above what I wanted. Prone in furls, you hear my little naggings. If you are a crocus initiating a demand, then we are shaking, fellas. The aura decided by exposing my hip to you, and I run my. The crowd loses itself from the surface then. Imagine you are promising again to leg street can ring, flown as immense dandelion. Department of small bells, that is, are tampering with the last era, its letters lost in turmoil of how my lower register crackles when I rep a stance toward hello, hello, hello. You simply deny who knew these workings. A sloppy wolf, digitized concert sourced from panel. I was heading toward the expressway, what of my swollen pan, scared in the blocked exit foundation for anguish, studies scraped thighs, and feeds that muscle its necessity. And then there's this one. Spotting quarry, the arc's radius sorts what counts, as meal is meal, and departed are my talons. How I have worn them, not wanting to tell, they are nubs. As if you caress, or imagine caressing hallux and finery of suede at pump. 5 I punch, another drone. I swore my allegiance to my shut eyes there, where I finesse, waves slapping into my canals, but just a trill. An arpeggio's worth against men, for men, shunned by men, thus no longer an example I followed. A clogged feeder dripped rest in heaven's nest. So those are the art ensemble poems that I'll read today. And then I'm going to read something from the kind of one of the bigger sections of the manuscript that's kind of floating around. If anyone wants to take a look at it and publish it. But this is the name of the book is also Hand Me the Limits, but this section is kind of where the title comes from. So that's a line from a poem in Solution Passage by Clark Coolidge, and then there's an epigraph from Clark Coolidge too, which is I want things to be things I didn't know before I turned them to storm. So some of you might have heard me read some of these in New York in late January, but figured I might as well read some today too. So soup were the option, and thus we folded into these drifts, certainly playing casino, into the trash that filmed and films my sight, the faint barber of time clipping you into shapes, swept into crackle, dry ribbon my fist followed, through to my nudity in mirror, drug me, drug me, drug me, despising the beads whisper in your dull head and southern exposure, deleting every day, never more wanting to be wetter. Shimmied up the fallen snag aloft at rest, where I plotted my abandonment of my plectrum, wasted on wrong lessons like the rooster, at your insistence dissing the blood around my skull, or the fey rhythm my boyish tits bounce to, prodded by poor circulation in fingers, or it's the dent that cannot be sucked. Held unlit tween teeth, baby fluffing over and all flesh, big baby boy, your mama in the mind's pew, big fluff, more like my own heat, merely touching a stomach in the cold, where I descended unrecalled, but around this time, puffing in the woods next the tracks, eyes on each syllable his lips formed, and so high as high goes, like chasing is natural or never to return. Yeah. It is beaten and then some, so you lick it and defend its sugar industry, the unweathered that is your weeping cynic's affinity for lining inflatable heart pasture. Deface me some more, because I so enjoy resting my scowl at the top of your spine. That's a spiteful one, I know. Hasten to fold, though I decide late to spread. Saunter like a Shetland pony revelation, or how I've formed my vase as container, worse, nutriment for the that, what bathes your lips. And then, yeah, I will read a few more. If I have time, do I have time? Like probably like 2 or 3 minutes or something like that. Yeah. So, yeah. This one is called Big Vince and Larry. Minimal blood on radiator. The lonely dalliance in the orchard is proof there's no more sense. Thus, beyond the hard fact is another cat scratch. Moralism clumps one can pick up and lob, exploding on delightful bouquet and sight there where I place my chin in my hands and hum. Marble Bazaar. Collar ripping across from nape, hollow exposed learnings that regard a rag, a song, the feral textile more than a guest, but confidant, some slang in the corner, so pause or pursue. It is laughter after all these butts soft on curb and their griefs, morning rasp, distal speck in morning. And then I think yeah. Yeah, this the last one I'll read is called 2CT7, which don't do 2CT7. It's like the worst of the experimental hallucinogenic drugs. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. Yeah. That thus my temple tackle, whoa, that I read that wrong. Sorry, I'll start over again. That thus my simple tackle where the pie is everywhere, stuffing too, with pie and instantaneous awareness of programming, kanji fragrant in its pools. Claim is this shanty, to speak scarcity, illusion, unplussed, piety, nay, what I intimate of others' pain, Santa, threshold would I hook myself, yes, in mouth, or synthesis, nay. When you're in a moral schism, just flounder, a little butter, pinch salt, lime to tenderize where a calculation might wander. Just spooge on it, man. It ain't a sin. The shouts should persist. Dread they do. Thanks so much. That's what I got. And I love writing short poems. Thank you, Navneet, for saying that. So next up, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Next up, I'm really pleased to present sorry, it was I'm trying to remember the order that we decided on. Yeah, Emily, Ryan, Anna. Yeah, sorry. So next up is Emily Martin, who is a writer and teacher from Brooklyn. Her most recent chapbook is called Dependence, the Joistrix / How You Are Made, and was published by Hiding Press in 2023. I think Emily's work is some of the best work being written out there. And I mean that in all sincerity. So just really, strange and interesting and provocative, but also like heartening and like very sincere in its kind of, I think, ability to share a unique but also collaborative vision of language and the world and what it can mean for all of us. So it's really, I'm really pleased to have Emily and to hear her read some poems. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ted. I can't even digest it yet, but I'm so grateful to you for having me. I'm grateful to everyone for being here and the Rail for hosting. I'm going to read some parts of a longer poem that I started, speaking of collaboration, that I started in Ted's workshop last year, that Ryan was in also, and then finished in another workshop of Ted's this year, so it felt appropriate. But I've mixed things up a little bit for reading out loud. But yeah, these are parts of a longer poem called Variant Time. Inhabitants of a mangled shape crawl into something really quite personal, a clear rock puddle washed by waves and your own hesitation to bear the exposure. But also I want to gather it all up into my hands and say, this is it. I need you to see it, I said to myself, that the impulse was real and I was right, to close without saving even a little, alone of character and brilliant parts, as if that would stay her dissatisfaction when faced with the chance to produce herself lyrically and left teaching from emptiness. And impossibly the children turn the ring to the east. The children turn the ring, to the east turns the chorus, turns the ring to the sun, turns the chorus to the hunters, to the sun hunters turn, for and trembling, to take part in the general hunt. Those who use violence to prevent the removal of suffering, those who require sacrificial masses and explain eternal hunger in a stage whisper, split the sun in two and manufacture scarcity from excess. It's not necessary, but he says it and it is so. And it is. In the bright glass case between impulse and act, a silent scream tells the secrets of the future in the language of sandpipers. I know nothing of mining, nothing of cliff faces or their brutalization, just to hesitate the brambles under two suns, lift our throats and spread our work jelly of milk made clear in permanent days excarnation by birdsong. I sat in the theater and watched the defleshing of the dead. Brightness spilled out from cut marks suggest, romance? It's between you and yourself, Emily. Please help quickly. Protect your drawings, for they are pictures of drenching waves. I wanted more and more. I wanted to linger and stroll out. I wanted to keep myself occupied. I needed to look in my pockets for an unexpected guest, a tiny piece of algae crawling from the sea. I needed to make eye contact with someone I didn't know, across the room, across a table. I don't know where you're looking because I don't know where I sit on your screen and I'm only looking at myself. Veins glaring in gold, will you watch from a distance as I act like you're not there? Tacitly treating each other as owners of our things and therefore independent. In the wide bright, in the sky, bright mangled sleeps transform to work on variant time, to sit and stare at the light that climbs up through the earth and out from the tiles. The work jelly spills milk, made exposure to live, as if on a spit. I wander through trees of streaks that leave no shade, and I lie on the beach as the day turns to evening but brings no relief, for the sun's never set and the night is inescapable as noon. To expose onto, I saw that my lie pleased him, and I remembered a bandage that tests whether or not there is a wound. The continuity of the bandage tests the discontinuity of the wound. Within me and between me and something else, a gloss coat, sable coat, mantle heaving with sweat, and she speaks from below the surface of character development. She speaks from within the garment, which is a spill between echoing constellations. The pasture spills out, and I return to descriptions of circumstance without indent. When I dream of you, it is our necks that touch. And there is a gas fire burning in the ocean, whose smoke is impartial as solstice to souls or sails. So this is the collage house we made together and live. Music out the window, ceaseless tending our rigor with bits that turn toward, though technological death has a less embarrassing pull. And sometimes hanging out in a group can be scary, especially when you don't have a common project. What becomes the project when you don't have one already? In the park, in a circle, talk of music and work, stories vibrate my throat to the stars and I'll meet you in bed later. Strung out and organized on a stage, the stones would have little pieces of painted Velcro stuck to them, so they could balance strangely, and impossibly the children are still shepherding under the table. The lamb is trapped in glowing marble. Someone felt ashamed and wanted to be alone, or maybe there was no shame at all, just two interiors. The first interior ever used for shelter, and the interior that was all the space in the world except that shelter. So different from what you imagine, the ones carved in stone, everything streaming as if all of this were conspiring to remind you. I want to see the fishnet carved from marble in San Severo in Naples, whose virtue lights doubt, renounces ceaseless generation, whose eyes spilled in scales ride the afternoon's threshold that made me give in to the arc of the day, that told, and in that telling made itself out to be some final word, as opposed to a tick in this droning of lilacs from bathtubs of soil, just one of the infinite organizations, and we in the variants, iterating all over ourselves to erode any dream of relief, sleep, or product. Those jokes that disgusted you once draw you back down avenues and tendon blades and terror and shimmering. In variant time, the repulse draws you back to voices off stage, inside of you and yet to meet, or lost long marbled blades whose sun would never set, as if another shining threshold, dispersed through the day in its droning and radiance, thirsts by the pool without end. Because it is on stage, each rock has an identical double. Because it is on stage, we can see each step in the sequence discreetly, a scarcity manufactured from excess, a gesture that knows its own archive and glazes a case for itself, not a bag full of crumbled off patches of skin that just fall and land wherever. He's hung your dead dog in the shower, and now he's under the bed, licking your hand as you stare at the wide bright. Watch the ash dry across the surface in a wide, bright evacuation laid waste. What is happening to me? What am I doing to myself, or what is being done to me? In variant time, we are being realistic and historical. Here is what's happening, and here's what I'll do. Verse, here is what's happening, and I don't know what to do. Verse, here, what is happening to me? The bead itself rips apart and scatters into thousands of versions. Thousands of tiny beads that everyone has, like knots or nets, music, jokes. Watermarks left by high tides are but some of the infinite organizations, and we in the variants could not rest. Re-uttering that performance as a sacrifice, a violent sacrificial potential that is shameless and therefore close to holiness. In variant time, the repulse draws you back to proliferate voices that freak me the stations and wires. They each and each and each among the nestless come. Where the sun never sets, you go into the threshold, which is a marble veil, which is a practice, activity, or process, which is a threshold of soil that radiates earthlight. Go into it, it spills out. Where is the friend? Snacks, water, cigarettes, praise, validation, exaltation, the edges where exchange happens on the last day of the year, echo through valleys and knotted elations of people and places and lovers and sunlight, between those that endure to bring you into the world. Flock of seagulls in the evening flies over the fragmentation that turns toward life. It's not beautiful, but it is lovely. Appear here in this habit to take up the space as you bloom from a tablecloth, thread the continuous seams that appeared as horizon of a meadow flooded with shallow pools reflecting the sky. As if a tract of land can ease, impulse grab a cupped hand, it cannot. Heron in the pool of reflected sky, it cannot. Say it, and still it is not so. To keep a name or debt circulating in a world that would forget them. How we talk of those that died quietly but gave us some sort of permission. Birch trees disappeared for 10 years now, at least. Where had they gone? And when the sprawl of suns settles nothing, but it is not explained. Do you really do that? You are trying to teach me how to live by what feels like destruction in this world, to recognize a presence through the gap left by a book taken from the shelf. You tell me of orchards embroidered in glass on the wall of a room made of mending and wandering, down tunnels that tilt through sky and soil and don't bear, now or ever, a dwelling for more than a song or a night fixing marble nets. Let them run off, they all are in a way. It's the thing that keeps us. Lid folded under lid, going around to our different stations, calling out what we want, our insistence, our deference. still after all this time, and I want to impress you. A secret that doesn't belong to anybody. We can only see parts of it. When I cover my eyes over candles on the table, I can hear in your voice you say to me, and we do really trust each other so much. Sky shelves filled with gaps off that left-hand side skittering, not because anyone asked but yourself. At night, in the mulberries, you've hidden gifts on different levels, and all those people are a part of you. You're made up of them, and still they surprise you, what they're drawn to, Kayla knowing the church. And now it is no longer winter, the sparkling, deflated balloons, plastic bags in the branches get their privacy back, and you enter the threshold every day, just limping but not in despair. They told us that everything scary had already happened, that it was over now, and we could all just live our lives. And we are. In the snow, I beg you, from now on, the world has only just begun. Thank you.
Yeah, you see what I mean, right? Like really incredible. I'm just like,
Thank you,
like, yeah, no, thank you.
I couldn't have done it without your workshops. That's the truth.
That makes me feel happy and humbled. Yeah. Thank you, Emily. Really incredible work. Next up, we have Monsieur Ryan Skrabalak, who is coming to us from so-called Lawrence, Kansas. And Ryan, in the official bio, is a writer, worker, and organizer from upstate New York, currently based in Kansas. He is a member of AFT 6403 and edits the poetry micropress Spiral Editions, which if you don't know Spiral Editions, you should check it out. Yeah, Ryan is one of the most exciting queer poets out there right now. I don't really know what else. I mean, just like great tattoo artists. He did this little, I don't know if you can really see it. No, you can't, but he did a little Snoopy on me, and is just all around a wonderful person to be in this hell world with. Yeah, please give it up for Ryan.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks so much. Thanks to the Rail, Carolyn, Anselm, Chloe, Eleanor, and yeah, thanks again to Ted and Emily. I was just like, oddly, a couple of weeks ago, we were just talking to Emily about reading in the flesh world together. And so now, yeah, the internet, the next best thing, right? So it's really nice.
Gotta do it in the flesh world.
Yeah, totally. And really excited to hear Anna perform too. As if almost by cue. So like I'm in this room right now. If I'm standing, so I'm like weird. And if a neighbor were to see me, they would just see me reading a piece of paper into the corner of a room if they saw me through this wall. And as if by cue, my dog is in the other room and deposited the compressed Himalayan yak cheese that she had been eating for the past couple of hours at my feet. So we might get a bark, but I'll do my best to incorporate it into the topography of the thing. So I'm gonna read from two things. Like many others, I have like a bunch of pots on the going right now, and so this is one of the pots. It's called Emphasis Mine. I'll just read them. Tonal intimacy. I saw the pond's green language sigh for a pond in avoiding the collaboration of particular science, or an echo is full of and carries itself a fading within it, a purse of surrendered light, and also sound, the ghost pipe, the live oak, the tree frog, the garden hose, in agreeing to roll off or into a texture, bent my ear to hear the tune, but an illumined face mostly betrays the redacted and looped environment, the pamphlet, terrapin, cattail, and penny press. I left peonies at my Bildung's shrine, walked across the informational concourse. Noises are weeds of topographic sound. There is multifluency in the grasswork and the tongue. I can be greedy, I can be groped, or even shaken down behind the interpretive center, the noise of the sun inserting itself here. Do I speak for it? I looked to it. I looked to invert this place, the knots of its netting. The next great American novel. The land got dumb as the drive shone on. We loved to contemplate the blue, and he walked in front of my fog. A world behind my eyes belonged. Vestigial colors dancing began in the other green cracks of the city, marbled along a form of rhyme. I had confessed something nasty in the chat box. What would I eat if there was a gun to my head? Then something I'd read months ago, recollected. A guitar made itself home there, insane in its own brightness, as a comet goes stray. There was a silence to the voices that held the weight of the summer village's air, inventing the morning, and any way to go down past thrilling the timidity of that time, in which a bell subtracted a forward moving air that trusted the day, where it also lives. We left to find the frail and mystical cornflower at the ankles of the chapel. A glow in the field unlocked, I instead pet the milk out of his dripping portal, the fragrant shadow of a New Deal lean-to shaken with the post-punk opaline oil of a horsefly's Jurassic information. He ran like caramel from my swollen pleading rein and bruised the foliage that a wren left behind. That was the nature of this place. The mirrors cracked the daffodils, and they wanted me to focus on this uncatchable light, clouds hanging like eunuchs in the royal grove. Prairie 1. Sucked clean, I mean, really, and left a shiny little rib bone, like all gone westwardly, bleached, a chapel's nave, the darkly Gothic brimming mug of government soma that ran through the list at the cuticle of the Metro strip mall, and its hypermandalic groping. The midi-Atlantic aliases kicking about their official documentation after the money brings its bags in and stays a while. When I flexed the small mauve pulsing and soft French crawler of the ice cream boy's giggling Art Deco shithole, the lacquer of my wonkatized loogie bandied about the park bathroom's musky tiled of countenance. The echo, I thought, yeah, what rankly melodic container would I like to be admired in? Maybe I could perform my life, the pleurisy of my rippled thighs shot through with gender and aerial condensed, life rich in love, but poor, as a cartoon mouse pilfers such delicious triangles of hard Dutch export cheese from the French aunt's cabinet. Emergency gala. Into and by the streetlight, Daniil's ghost sequins over at the wrought iron nova, a 2 grappa boy goodbye, and I insist on an ocean, but get delivered a parking lot, humming and nearly blessed. Constantinople, Tyrian purple, Liz Claiborne, ruined in a magazine. I love with the architecture. I am convinced it loves me, cars hot and dangling, and lo, for a split second, this good cop, bad cop gay guide to New York City, pried open with a mother of pearl pocket knife. a luminous epigram that I left oops on the rockaway bound prepared guitar that just stood there. The night twists, a return of tremendous love that you can feel, the color of our downtown version of dreaming, devotionally passing sesame balls golden back and forth on doors, tasting a pomegranate wind. Specifically, I loved you, the puddles, noodles entering your mouth. I hate all of my clothes, too fucking bad. I glide my hand against the sun with a diamond twist there, adding relief and umbrage, two small fey masterpieces in which I donate a little faggot whisper to the medium air and embargo time or try. It's so laced with stars, playbills, and persimmons. Keep practicing, son, and don't take the first offer. Emphasis mine. Approached him gently. Everyone noticed this. A new history began. There was a way I could reach my biography and wear it, but could not otherwise inhabit. The poem left me to appear radially, but I was still there, behind. In this way, I could only recall the color of its tail, its beat in air. Maybe I was practicing another memory or in the scaffold of another event, gilded by fiction. I remained in the diagram of it. A train blew through the station. A type of writing had ever occurred. An area rendered into itself fully. That's the generosity of the poem. Who wouldn't notice a few flowers missing? Ancestors tell me in random wind something they never do again, and so I write as a fucked interior of lyric what makes most sense to me under this spermazoic humiliation of love and species. All this mentorship and no disturb to show, a little harmony comes incorrectly to me upon the reciprocating cash-only boulevard in this topography, topology of this orchard. Curiously, with this moon and these little berries lit like coins by the consciousness of the moon and banished from this garden on the surface of it and into the ruin weight of the earth. There is absolutely nothing wrong with me. What makes most sense to me under this tenderness to describe glass around a flame? Water to never close this parentheses, but the sodomy illumined me from within like a dashboard, mycelial in its axiomatic puppeteering, to squeeze contemplation and action into the same overwhelming segue of looseness. The harness draped over the field's infinite aromatic murmurs, fastened to a boundless hereafter dos-a-dos. There was a specific princess manifesto to elide destiny from. It was like Finch language for me, a gramophone in thought, a cassette requested for the edge of town mile per hour theory, antisocial porcelain woods, where I felt his hair again peeking. And then I was easily diminished by a secret lever. Blood activated and painted more time under blood, which is an event I progress in perception, the history of the intimacy of sound, and my soonish griefless escape. 2 moons as shorthand for a secondary world. It is so beautiful to see an animal walk away after it got what it needed. I go read like 3 more from this. Ohio Turnpike 1. Johnny Appleseed saw me run clear, then pull out of the boys gentle, looking for special, inelegant syllable and very relaxed. Courage. Like what happened in there? Vanilla swirl, knowledge of berries, fungal skirts, weeds covered in blasted landscapes, Winnebago covered in Google Earth, hip flexors thus to perform a fine neon mist of assault, semiotically, I mean, and retweeted our fluid. I heard the wind decline a voice to add to the beveled choir. Do what you're told. I don't remember it being that dark. Do what you're told. Began this year's very first poem. Ohio Turnpike 2. Beyond the vibratory borders of the flesh, into the hot wired collapse of anima, I wipe the passionate, insane scum of the brake lights that dart across from my lip, that I followed the noise of the sick, panting animal into the truck stop shower, and that I saw a putrid jelly of our botulism strainedness swirl into a grate. Hair. That the land unfurled me before us like the strip of a cassette's hot, dry hair unwind, erroneous and vile underneath the aleatory features of the divine. And that beyond the divine were upper-class values that, after grabbing my slack reddened bits and blabbing them upon the cuss word wind the sedans coughed up on the off-ramp, began to render themselves into a powder. That the gasoline in my own armpits turned me feral under the sodium. There was a pathetic eroticism in the fluffiness of the gasoline, the cerebral nutrition of his piss, the fake black cherry scent, feeling the collapse, then flushing it away, watching it circle to black and then wink, and the powdered donut. Ohio Turnpike 3. Here's a song I wrote while I was singing that other one. Joseph's dream of grain begat 6 intermodals stalled in Missouri. The stuttering constellation, the poem was called A Breathing Upright Animal, and woke upon the social blue prairie, in which this day I simply write to Joseph's dream of trains, shaped like chat piles of vermilion running dough. Good tidings are heard from far away, as in laminated on a brochure of flocks, slotted on reproducing mica-flecked ribbons near non-dairy creamer and a jug of simple green, where adjacently I, shifting blood from my cock, waiting in wind for my dog to shit on the chemical lawn designated cold grid for us, 2 men buried themselves in each other behind this gazebo. I heard their pores becoming, while I was singing this song I was driving and dug myself out of this private edition. The road explained a feeling of highness. Despite a slight complaint of rain, the sound, the color of adolescent wishes, that's what I remember of the memory. And that's how I've seen time change, pushing it. Ohio Turnpike 4. Things I can barely afford, living in a pretend language, writing them, moonlight air, married up nouns on the half shell, searching for the memory, as in how will the market forces handle this? You've got a lot of nerve. The trick is to enact it. I have an idea of what tomorrow might, 78 pages of contemporary American poetry, darkened as if by bruising. Bruising as in love's force. Love's force is in when you lose, something more of you fills in, the space's orality. There is a wrong word for this, when the melodic red plume is flowers and not blood. If there is blues, flatness, is flowers to barely afford me, dogmatic efficiency, or writing to have an idea. Ohio Turnpike 3. I echo a lot between the mountain so purple and the almost rose of it, of the internet's dimension, abject and stammered glades of torrifying numbers, where I'd find dust, where the dream takes me for a color to a color and sharpens the liquid, which is a search engine at my feet, brain, always on this road from Youngstown to Bryan, 2250. We will gain significant efficiencies. I was too sad to be justified and shook my liquid out on the cake. Today is running into each other. Tomorrow, hard candies in a crystal. Plastic over doily over fake oak, which go off in any direction. I lost my sanity to become more wonderful. Okay, then make more things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. That was great. It's so funny that you read this. The third to last poem you read mentioned intermodal and Missouri and a bunch of other pieces of language. And I couldn't think of a better kind of entree actually into how I met Layer Meat, aka Anna Young, our final presenter today. I was at a party it was a birthday party for Levi, actually, for Levi Bentley. And I was wearing a shirt by Buzz Blur, the famous moniker, train moniker artist, that says Colossus of Rhodes, ROADS on it, and has a little drawing of, you know, his drawing. And and I was like, oh hey, you know, that's Buzz Blur. Or like, you know, and we started talking about riding freight trains, and it turned out that we were both retired hobos. So and then we lived in the same neighborhood, and we would see each other all the time, and I was like, wait, we should probably be friends, right? So a friendship was born, and so it's very funny that you read that poem, because it's sort of like the life that we once lived was very much present in that poem. But Layer Meat is Anna Young, artist, composer, and performer. I think I saw Anna perform with her old band like within the first month of when I moved to Philadelphia, and was just like, what is this music? Like I just couldn't, like it was just like really, I was like, this is like Diamanda Galas or something. Like it really it's very striking. And Anna's voice is incredible, and I'm really happy that she's able to be here with us today. So Layer Meat, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ted. That means a lot to me. It's like very, very generous. And, you know, I wanted to say something. I love that you mentioned that's how we met. And I really also I loved listening to you, Emily, and listening to you, Ryan. It's special to hear things like this and to be invited to be a part of things like this. There's something about Ted's poetry, not just the fact that we have like some common threads, you know, back there in the wild, but it's like it helps me sometimes see and feel like I'm a part of some things that I lost that I didn't know could get away from me. And like people, places, not so much ideas, I'm still kind of a freak, but like people and places that I didn't know I could lose, you know. And it just like within that string of poems by all of you, it was like very like I could feel all of it, and it was quite lovely. So I'm gonna do, you know, this is a little odd. These are all sort of rearranged or just pared down versions of my songs. And I'm going to start with a few that have some backing tracks, and then I'm going to do a few a cappella. Thanks for being patient with me, my dudes. Let me figure it out. You know, I think we're just gonna do one of them without the backing tracks because this is tedious. This song is called Maya, and there would be a backing track if I had the patience for this right now, but I don't. love. And this next piece is, I'm going to come through the tracks in a slightly different way. It's going to sound interesting, I think. We'll see. There's a quotation in this from an astronomer's epitaph that I did not write, and a quotation from another song by Richard Hundley that I did not write. And I always think it's really important for me to like give credit where credit is due in that regard. I will hold your hands, I will crush your wounds, I will crush your hands, I will hold your wounds, I will hold your hands, I will crush your wounds, I will crush your hands, I will hold your wounds. I have loved the stars deeply, be afraid of the And as these last pieces, also, I've never been invited to a poetry reading, and I'm actually just really excited about this entire thing. I just want to say that these last pieces, I want to say that I decided at the last minute to include a cappella piece from that band that Ted mentioned. It was called Hermit High Priestess. It's not a Layer Meat song. I'm going to share it anyway. A peculiar with thoughts of an unknown hex, and checks from the government, craft claimer, bone Caesar, all flesh peeler, catch a blow, worst, and the prairie where it could be your home. Ooh, catch a blow. And this last piece is a newer Layer Meat song, and it's in its finished variety. It will have like six vocal layers and probably sound like a dump truck hit it. But you know, here I'm kind of forced to be a lot more vulnerable with it, which is kind of wild. When you're a singer, you can really, I never thought about it like this, but you do kind of hide behind a lot. I like to think that I don't, but it's moments like these where you find out that you might be a little bit. So this last piece is called Carry Me Forward, Love, and it's about a horse. They are watchers, they are waiters, they are fools. But she's willing to let me ride, but she thinks nothing of me, but I wait. I bide my time. She always comes around for me. She always comes around for me. My feet are stones. My heart grows pale. My mind is a wild storm. My mind is a horse that's gone. I am cruel, but I crack for this love. I am dead, but I spark for this love. I am sick, wild, untamed, overgrown and in need. Carry me forward, love. Carry me forward, love. Carry me forward, love. Carry me forward, love. Crush them under your hooves. Carry me forward, love. Carry me forward, Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being invited to be a part of this, Ted. And I just, again, I can't say enough how much I enjoyed your pieces, Emily and Ryan and Ted. And thank you, Carolyn, for all the work you put in. And thank you to the Brooklyn Rail. I really, really appreciate being here.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Anna. Incredible, right? Everybody should go and download the Anna's cover of Kate Bush's Suspended in GAFA, because it is really something incredible. It's really really incredible. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here.
Ted, thank you so much for putting this together, and Anna, Emily, Ryan, that was all really, really fabulous. So at the end of these things, we throw everybody's mics open. Anna, say hello and goodbye before heading out in the day. So maybe we should go ahead and do that.
Thank
Amazing!
you. That was amazing.
It's incredible.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Beautiful reading, Emily, Ryan, Anna. That was profound. And I love Philadelphia too.
Yeah.
Love Philadelphia. Yes. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Ansem.